Oh, hi, Susan. How are you today?
Good, how are you?
Great, great. All right, looks like Heather is with us as well. And then I think Dan has been on the phone for some time or on the internet. What we're going to be doing this morning is going through some of the features and the capabilities of Abila Fundraising 50 on a fairly high level. The product itself has actually been around in a similar form for almost 30 years now. So it's very well established. The product itself obviously is a database to record donors, alumni, businesses, associates, basically anyone who is associated with an organization, and then allows you to also track a number of different attributes and different information about them, including any gifts that they may give to your organization. It also allows you to classify those gifts in a number of different ways so that you can really analyze the effectiveness of your appeal to folks on a fundraising basis. The database itself, I do want to make mention, it runs off of Microsoft SQL, so it's a very stable platform. The product is actually available either to reside on your own computers within your office, on a single computer or on a network with multiple users. It can also be accessed via a hosted version via the web as well on a subscription basis. So again, it's very flexible in terms of how you can access the product, and it is a fairly well-established product, as I mentioned earlier. Okay, so if everyone can see my screen right now, what I want to point out is basically the different sections that we're looking at right now. Over here on the left-hand side, you're going to see a navigator. And what the navigator is going to do is it's basically going to help you maneuver through the software to get to different categories. You can see we've got some pretty basic categories here, home, constituent, campaigns, which will get into how you can classify gifts, events. So again, you can track attendance at your special events and other important items relating to putting on special events. There's a whole reporting section. There's a built-in report writer. There's a quick gift entry screen, which allows you to efficiently and quickly get information in on gifts on those crunch times when you might be doing a special appeal at the end of the year, or for a scholarship campaign, or for an emergency funding situation. There's also the ability to link to bank and credit card processing. So if you've got folks who are doing recurring gifts, the system works in conjunction with Sage Payment Solutions in order to process those gifts on an automated basis, so you don't necessarily have to remember each and every person who's giving to you on a monthly basis. There's also some online gift capabilities as well, and it syncs very well with the Abila Fundraising Online, which is basically a product which helps you create a web presence, specialized web pages that can be designed to track gifts or registrations and then be uploaded into the Abila Fundraising system. So that's an overview of the navigator. Right here in the middle is the live portion of the software, and right now I am on a screen that says Tickler. And what we mean by a tickler here is basically a reminder system. So what this is you can go ahead and set the software so that it will remind you of a to-do list that you have with specific constituents within your system. So you can see in our sample, we've got some contacts that we've set up with foundations, but obviously these could also be follow-up calls that perhaps you need to make to individual donors, or folks who are involved in your organization, or set up meetings, those sorts of things. Underneath the live section of the software, we actually have what would be a quick report. There's a number of different quick reports that are included in the system. This one is just kind of giving us a breakdown of the types of different constituents we've got in the system. Over here on the right-hand side, we have a history section, which will allow us to quickly go back to different pages in our history. So this is really helpful if you're going through and, you know, perhaps making phone calls and you leave a voicemail message and then someone calls up and you can quickly get back to their record. Finally, underneath the history section, there's a links section. So what this is actually going to allow you to do is to go to some different resources from within the software and from out on the web. You can see that what I went ahead and did is clicked on a link that took me quickly out to the Abila homepage. There is, you know, some additional resources that are out here as well. There's also, you know, different help resources as well. You know, they're included with the product. You can see that right here, I've got a listing here of frequently asked questions. So, you know, as you're going through the software, this is a quick way to get to some of that information. There is also a connection here to Abila Live Connect or to support chat. So if you need some help from a support end, this is a quick way to start a support session with Abila. Again, support is included with the cost of the software. So if you are subscribing on a monthly basis, that's included with your regular fee. What's also included are various web classes that are held just about once a month on about 7 or 8 different topics, which again are included with the price of your monthly subscription or with your maintenance and support. So there's a lot of different resources that you have to getting help within the software itself. All right. Just quickly, notice that when I went and clicked on the home page as my history selection, what it did is it brought up a series of snapshot reports. These are some quick results that you can see. You know, right here, for example, we're looking at you know, the monetary value of the gifts that we've recorded in the system on a year-to-year comparison basis. These reports actually can be changed. They can also be edited as well. Right here I've got a selection here called Customize Snapshot. So you've got a lot of variety here. All right. So that being said, let's get over to kind of the heart of the system, which is going to be over here in the constituent section. So when I went ahead and I selected constituent, what it did is it brought up a representation here of a note card. All right. So the whole idea here is that the note card system is kind of used as a representation of a record for a constituent. So much the same as if you were doing this with paper and pencil or pencil and note cards, you can go in and fill out the information that's included in the system itself. So if I was to go ahead and just click on my Find button here, what it's going to do is just basically bring up a listing of everyone who I have included in the system. All right. So for each one of these individuals or businesses, or they can be both, what we refer to within the system as a constituent, there is going to be an individual note card and actually a kind of more of like a complete note card file. So I'm just going to select Trista's name from the list, and when I click on her name, it brings up what's referred to as a basic card. And a basic card is a summary of information about this particular constituent. So what we're learning on this basic card is we can see we've got name, address, we've got the way that the person prefers to be addressed. We have phone numbers down here, and again, we can keep track of 4 different phone numbers for them. We also down here have email information. We can actually have 2 email addresses and a web page address over here on the basic card. We can actually capture more ways of contacting someone other than what's here on the basic card, but this is merely showing us their preferred method of being contacted. Also on this card, we have what are referred to as key attributes. The idea here is what attributes do is they are ways to go ahead and track additional information about constituents within your system. So these attributes are chosen by you. There's a number of different attributes that are included with the blank version of your database, but you can go ahead and edit those. You can go ahead and add new ones. You can delete the existing ones. It really can be set up to track the information that you need to track about your constituents. So you can see what we have included here as key attributes is classifying what type of a constituent is this. And you can see that they are an individual. We are, in this case, keeping track of them as an alum of our organization or of our school. You can see that we've included class year. We can also track these people further rather than just as an individual, but what their main affiliation is with the organization. We also have some additional information here, like the number of children if they have any. Are they a volunteer? Are they a board member? Are they a staff member? So I do want to point out that this is just a mini representation of the attributes that we can keep track of for someone. If you notice, we have this basic card, is highlighted by the basic tab, but there's a whole series of tabs that are included in the system as well. Each one of these tabs can represent an additional card or cards with further information about this constituent. So for example, there's a card here called attributes. So if I go ahead and I click on this, I didn't think I made any changes, but the system's keeping me honest. You can see that on the attribute card, I have much more information that I'm tracking about this particular constituent. You can see that just as we had as one of our key attributes, their class year is listed here, but we also have something here called their estimated giving, their funding interests, their gender, what mailings they want to receive. And in fact, we have so much information on this card, you can see that there's a little dog-eared corner here. So that's actually telling us that, oh, you can turn the page or turn the card over and look at the rest of the information. So you can see that we've also got information here that they have multiple affiliations, that they're an alum of our school, but they're also a parent. All right. We also have a listing of some of their different hobbies. So if we're going to be doing a special event, perhaps what we want to do is we want to be able to track and invite to an event people who have specific hobbies. We've set up additional information here to track maybe their potential giving, how they were first referred to our organization. So again, we've got a lot of information that we can keep track of. It's just a matter of, in this case, selecting the ones that are going to be included here as our key attributes, the ones that perhaps we want to query on a regular basis. Okay, which brings me to another point. It's great that we've got all of this information here on this card and, even the attribute information, but how do we look someone up in the system once we've already set this up? I can actually go ahead and from my history, click on query. And by query, we basically are saying, okay, let's look someone up, so give me a blank card so I can look up information. So for example, we were looking up Trista. She was a member of the class in 1970. Notice when I go to these attributes, I've got a drop-down list, so I could actually go ahead and select anything from here. But maybe what I want to go ahead and do is I want to go ahead and pull up everybody who's a member of the class of 1970. I can do a count from the screen. So it will come back and it actually will tell me how many folks are actually are part of the class of 1970. For some reason, it's taking its time here. Okay, it's telling me I've only got one constituent. Let me go ahead and let me pull up one other year here. Nope, nobody in my system. Okay, I've got 22 people who are part of the class of 1974. And notice how easy it was for me to go ahead and switch what I was actually looking for. I can go ahead and, since I know there's 22 of them because I clicked on the count button, I can actually click on the find button to quickly bring up that list. So if I wanted to look at an individual in the list, I could go ahead, click on that name. I could look up any additional information about them, and I could also scroll through the list by the use of these arrow keys down here at the bottom. All right. If I want to return to the list, I'm simply going to click on Browse, because this list is actually referred to as a browse list. Now, once we've gone ahead and we've brought up a browse list, there's a number of different things that we can do from this particular screen. Notice that I've got the city, state, and zip code listed. Perhaps what I actually want to do is I want to set up a phone list. What I could go ahead and do is I could pull up a listing here where I could go ahead and I could include, perhaps the home area code, and then I would also include the home phone number. So now I've got a little bit of a list with that information, and maybe what I also want to include is a salutation. So if I'm going to be making phone calls, right here on the screen I've got a quick list of phone numbers and the way that they like to be addressed. Further from the screen, what I have the ability to do is I can do a print browse. So I could go ahead and just quickly send this over to a printer. Notice that I've got a list here. I'm hoping this listing is big enough for you to see, but I've got a little report here that I could quickly go ahead and send over to the printer with just the name and address information. All right. The other thing that I can do from these browse lists is I could actually go ahead and do a quick email. All right. It's actually telling me, though, I don't have emails from everyone in the system, but you can see how it automatically opens up a screen where I can go ahead and send off a quick email to an individual or to multiple people. I can actually set this up so it also has a nice little signature in there with your contact information. From this list, I can also do a quick merge. So again, I could go ahead and in this quick merge, bring in the information, to send out a letter. I've got address information that's being included right here. So if I go ahead and I click on merge, it's going to go ahead, it's going to let me either merge to an existing Word document or go ahead and create a new one. Okay, I can also specify what fields I want to include in this quick merge. So I don't even have to run a report to go ahead and actually start creating letters directly from the system. A couple of other things that I can do as well is I can go ahead and when I do this quick print, I can also print off labels or envelopes for those from the list as well. I can also export this list out to Excel if I wanted to do that right from this particular screen. And again, keep in mind, this is all from a browse list. This is all from something very basic. We're not even going into the report writer itself. All right. So if I wanted to go ahead and record this information, one of the things that I want to point out is I'm going ahead and sending out an email. Notice that down here underneath, what it allows me to do is also add a contact card. What a contact card is a way of going ahead and recording in the system that you have contacted someone. So in this case, we could go ahead and add a contact card saying that we actually went ahead and sent an email out to someone. So further, we could go ahead and classify this as just a normal piece of correspondence. Maybe we're sending out the email newsletter or something of that nature. But maybe what we're doing is we're actually soliciting them for a particular donation. We could go ahead and associate it with a solicitation. What I'd like to do now is I'm going to go ahead and just sort of cancel out of these particular screens, because I do want to take you back into a constituents record. In this case, we're over here looking at Peggy Jansen's. And notice that there actually is a tab here for the contact cards. So when I click on that, what it's doing is bringing up a representation of the contacts that I've had. In this case, I'm over here in Peggy and Daniel's record. So it's showing us, that we've gone ahead and we've invited them to specific events. Here we go. They've been invited to the class reunion. This all syncs with the events management function within the software. So we can go ahead and we can track RSVPs in the system and actually whether they've perhaps paid for their ticket or not. So now I am in the individual record, but if I click on table, it's going to bring me back to this list view. So for solicitations, again, what I could go ahead and do is track that, hey, you know what, they were actually sent the spring mailing. So again, if they respond to this, I could actually track the fact that, oh, you know what, they've given to our spring mailing. So I can develop some sort of a history here to go off of. So next year when I'm doing the spring mailing, I definitely want to include the Andersons because they've responded in the past. We also have some additional information down here for correspondence. Okay, so just showing that, yes, they were sent the annual report. And it's very easy to set up these contacts on a global basis. So it's not like you've got to go into the individual record and say, hey, I sent this particular person an invitation or I sent them a copy of the annual report. You can do it on a list basis, so it makes it very efficient. All right. One other thing that I do want to mention, suppose it is something that we want to track in the system, and maybe we want to make sure that we actually make a phone call to the Andersons because we want to ask them to share an upcoming event. I can go ahead and I can click on the new contact button down here. It brings up a screen to allow me to say, okay, what kind of contact do I want to record? I can go ahead and right-click to bring up a calendar here, and I'm going to say this happened on April 30th. And perhaps what I want to say is I want to go ahead and I want to make a telephone call to them. Again, this is a list that you totally control. You can add new contact types by clicking on this hyperlink. So, it's very easy to edit these tables within the system and record all of this information. I could go ahead and put a little message in here, and I want to say ask to share golf outing. And pardon my, okay, contacted. So what it's going to want me to do is it's going to want me to record who is the person who's supposed to be contacting. I'm just going to say, I'm going to give it a name here. All right. So you can see that this is actually in red because it has not yet been completed, and it's scheduled in the future. So this would be available on the tickler, in this case for Trista, so she would know to be able to make that particular phone call. All right. Again, getting between these different cards is pretty straightforward. Each one of these different tabs is going to take us to the card with the additional information. So for example, if we've got a name card here, so we've got the ability to record different names that are associated with this particular constituent. So you can see that what we've got is the information on Peggy. We also have her name along with the name of her spouse, and you can see that they are non-traditional in terms of names. So we've gone ahead and set this up so we can keep track of the correct last name with the particular individual. Again, very easy to add multiple names for someone, multiple salutations as well. Address information, we can have multiple addresses. Notice that we can also have seasonal addresses in the system. So if someone, winters in Florida, you can go ahead and you can track that in the system, and there's a function to allow you to go ahead and update that. Notice here that we can have multiple email addresses and phone numbers here. All right, just going to click on table to take me back to that list view. The other thing that we have the ability to track in the system too is relationships. So this is really helpful. For example, if you are tracking relationships between, say, families, so brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, It's also a great way to be able to track relationships between companies and employees as well. The system will allow you to track information with regard to matching gifts based on the employer-employee relationship. All right. Now notice also that there's a number of different tabs here that do not have information. You can still use these. What it just means if it's not bolded is that no one has used it as of yet. All right. Notice that what we do have information here about is giving information, in this case for Peggy. All right. We've got a couple of things that we are looking at here. On the donor card, we actually are looking at her 10 years of giving history. So at a glance, we can see, what the track record is. We can see that she has not yet given a gift, or we haven't recorded a gift for her in 2015. Notice also that automatically below here, we have a something that's very similar to our donor card. It's giving us a nice little summary report so we can see, the giving history, even when we're looking at different information for this particular constituent. There also is a gift card as well. And the gift card is actually one method of going ahead and recording donations in the system. So when we are recording donation information, we have not only the ability to associate a particular gift with an individual, but we have different ways of classifying that information as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just click on one of these existing gifts. So you can see in March of last year, we recorded a gift of $105, which was a cash gift. We also have the ability to then further classify it by what solicitation it came in response to. It came in from the spring mailing for the purpose of student scholarships, which then will be classified for accounting purposes to the scholarship fund. So all of these tables are defined by you. Notice also that we've also associated this particular gift with a particular campaign. So it was part of our 2012 annual campaign. I do just want to take a quick route over here just to quickly show you that setup for the campaigns. Notice that under the navigator, we actually have a selection here called campaigns. So what we are looking at here is the campaigns that have been set up for this particular organization. You can see that they've gone ahead and used a structure where they've gone ahead and set up an annual campaign for each year, but they have an ongoing capital campaign that spans multiple years. Now, from within the campaign, you would then further define solicitations. So here we are for 07, and here are all the solicitations that have been set up to coincide with the 07 campaign. Over here for the 2012, we're going to have these particular campaigns that have been set up. Now notice also we have the ability to track gifts by purposes and funds. All right, and your purposes and funds might be as broad as just general operating, and your funds might just be unrestricted giving or restricted or temporarily restricted, permanently restricted. You can set it up with accounting terminology if you need to. You can also, if you've got a specific fund that you have set up for a specific kind of purpose, if you're trying to raise funds for scholarships or for contributions to a particular program. There's a number of different ways that the system can help you to really monitor your giving and also help you make sure that people's gifts are actually recorded and therefore sent in the way that the donor has indicated. All right, so what I also want, this gives me an opportunity to do, is we had hopped over to the campaign section from the navigator here, but we were actually looking at Peggy's information. From the history, I can just quickly click on her name again, and it's bringing me right back to the gift card that we were just on. So this history is a great way to quickly get back to the screen that you were just previously on. All right. So if we were to go ahead and set up a new gift, just want to show you really quickly how we can go ahead and do this. Notice that the system also has membership tracking. So if you are an organization that has different membership levels, the system can help you monitor when those particular memberships are going to come up for renewal and report on those for you. Notice that when we're recording gifts, we can also record pledges. So if you go through a campaign where folks are not only giving you cash, checks, or credit cards, but also making pledges, even multi-year pledges, the system can very easily track that for you. If we have this set up with Sage Payment Solutions, we can also track recurring gifts as well. We can also do soft credit. So if people are giving you gifts in kind, or you want to make sure that you are giving someone credit for a gift perhaps they have solicited from their company or for someone else, you can track that in the system as well. Let me just go ahead and quickly do a pledge here, because that's going to take us through all of the various screens. Notice that the first thing it's asking me for is the amount of the pledge. Tender. Tender simply means is what is the way that the gift was conveyed to you. And because this is a pledge, we're just going to go ahead and select pledge. But notice that what we could do is if it was cash, check, we could, again, this is something you can set up. We then will go ahead and associate this with a particular solicitation. When I select the solicitation, the campaign's automatically selected as well, and then I'll go ahead and I'll set it up with or select what purpose it is to be assigned to as well. And this is just an unrestricted gift. So when I go ahead and I say unrestricted, it's automatically populating the fund for me as well. So you really don't have a whole lot to fill in. I do want to point out, it's notice also, if this was a gift given in honor or memory, you can set that up so that you can properly track those gifts and notify the person who the gift is being given in honor of, or the family of the person it's given in memory of. You can track benefits. So this is really helpful, especially maybe for events where you want to make sure that your cards or your receipts that you send to folks reflects the true value of their gift. We can also specify the letter, the acknowledgement letter or thank you letter that someone is supposed to receive. So this is a great way to perhaps be able to segregate out those folks who should receive a special letter because they're a major donor or they've given to a specific purpose. Again, a lot of these fields are optional. Some of these are required, for example, being able to track the funds, but you can also add a lot more detail if you wish to being able to track these gifts. There actually are these 5 different fields over here that are customizable by your organization so that you can track additional information about the gift. Notice that some of these have been set up as an in-kind item, so we've got a table there. We've got something here that hasn't been set up here that's just table 2. I've got a description of the in-kind. I've got a deposit number. So all of these things can be included in here as well. Notice also that we could give credit to another constituent. So again, if someone was supposed to be soft credited for this, we could go ahead and do that. If this was a recurring gift, we could track it as something that was banker credit if we had it set up that way. But again, this is just a pledge, so I'll go ahead and I'll click on Save Changes. What it also is going to allow me to do is I can actually set up my pledge schedule right here on the fly. I can go ahead and I could set it up. Notice that when I pick my number of payments, it divides my original amount of my pledge for me. I can set my first payment due date, and I could go ahead and say first day of the next month. I could then set up my interval, and maybe this is going to be an annual pledge. I can also control how my overpayments and underpayments are applied as well. It gives me a quick little schedule here so I can see when the payments are due. And again, because I set this up as a multi-year pledge, it's going to track those out into the future for me. All right. So there, I've gone ahead, I've recorded my gift, and now it is included in my table here as a pledge. very easily if I was to go ahead and now receive a check from them. Notice the first thing that pops up for me is the fact that they have an outstanding pledge. So, you know, it gives you a visual reminder here that, so it makes it very easy to remember that, hey, you know what, this $500 check is probably indeed a pledge payment. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to cancel out of that screen because I do just want to point out something real quickly here about entering gifts. There's something here that's called a quick gift. All right, and what the quick gift does is it really helps you in those crunch times. You know, say that you are doing a run-a-thon or, you know, something where you're getting a large volume of gifts, and they all are coming in with basically the same coding. They're all going to the same solicitation, purpose, fund, you know, and they're all checked. This is a quick way to get this information in. One thing I'm going to do here is I'm just going to say modify quick gift. And again, the system in many cases allows you to go ahead and you know, edit what fields you want to have included here. So I'm only going to record or include the ones that are required. And what I could actually go ahead and do is I could set up, you know, specific defaults for this. So maybe what I want to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and set this up with something called on demand. I'll just show you what this is. This is just going to be a template that you can set up. So right here for the gift, I could perhaps go ahead and say, oh, you know what, this gift is for the 2010 personal ask. The purpose is going to be for unrestricted, and it's going to go to my general fund. So when I go ahead and I say, okay, it's going to go ahead and save the changes that I just made in that regard. All right, just wanted to show you how those all got saved. And I'm using the one called On Demand because I've selected it here. So now when I go ahead and I'm going to go put in a gift, and let me go ahead and just type in, I'm going to say this is from the Joneses. Oops, if I could spell. Notice I only have to put in part of a name, and it's going to do a quick search for me, and it's going to bring up my constituents. So I then could go ahead and select someone from the list. It's also going to give me a recap of their information right down here, so I can make sure it's correct. If it's changed and it's different on the check that I'm looking at, notice that what I can do is there is a hyperlink that will take me over here, put that information in. Okay, and then I can go ahead and put the gift amount in. I'm just going to say it's $100, and I'm going to say it is a check. Putting in my information here. All right, and once I've gone ahead and done that, I can say save, and then I could go ahead and click back in his record, and I could make changes to the address or anything that perhaps I needed to over here. Perhaps we had misspelled their address, so I could make that change. All right. I could quickly go back to my quick gift, and then I could go ahead and add a new row. Let me just go right back over here to my user defaults. Aha, notice that right here where it said no default template, this was user error here, guys. What I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to say on demand because that's the one I had set up. I could go ahead and just click on new row. I could put a new gift in, and perhaps this is for the Andersons. From Sophia. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say this is a gift. And notice when I went ahead and did this, it automatically populated all that information. So the only thing I need to do is go ahead, put in the dollar amount, put in the fact that it's a check, and go ahead and say new row. So it can be very quick here, you know, just going through adding different names, you know, just pulling the information up. Saying it's a gift, putting in my dollar amount, I'm going to put it's a check, and then I just move on. So all of this information can go in really, really quickly when you are at a crunch time. All right. What also is kind of cool about this too is you can also export this to Excel. So again, I've got my Excel already open here from a previous report, so I'm just going to close out of that. Say export to Excel. And what it will go ahead and do, okay, my Excel is prompting me, be very easy for me to go ahead and, perhaps print this out if I needed to send this over to, perhaps the chair of the event or the person who was, monitoring some of this information, or just, for your own record-keeping purposes. All right. So then I could go ahead and put this in play. I could save.
Hello?
Yes.
Oh.
Hi.
Sorry.
Did you have a question?
I'm sorry, I was going to talk to somebody. I'm going to do something else.
Okay.
Okay, are we still good, everybody? All right, I've got one extra row here, so I'm just going to delete that row. Now I can go ahead and click on Save. And this just quickly, the gift gets put into their particular record. So here we have it. Just the same way we would have done it as if we would have done it through a particular card. Okay. So we've put gifts into the system. We've gone ahead and looked at some of the different information that we can put in here. One of the things that I also, again, did just want to go ahead and mention is we talked about relationships. One of the things that we can go ahead and do is, put this information in the system. What happens as well is we've set this up and we've recorded that Ryan is brother-in-law to Trista. Well, notice that we've got Trista's record right here. When you go ahead and you set up these relationships, they automatically set up the reciprocal relationship on, the other individual that you're associating, or the other business. Okay, and just speaking about businesses, I do want to go ahead and take a look at a business record. Again, because you may have different businesses that are involved with your organization, either with sponsorships, they may give out grant funding, they may give you gifts in kind. You can record all that type of information within the system as well. So here we have a company called Advanced Electronics. Notice that the constituent card says organization name instead of an individual's last name and first name. All right. So the information is kind of tracked slightly different. Notice also that right down here we have the ability to go ahead and track that Advanced Electronics matches gifts, and we can even say that they match 50 cents on every dollar. Okay. Now, I had mentioned that the structure for names on an organization or company card is slightly different. Notice that what we have here is we have the name of the company, and then we also have the ability to have multiple contacts at the organization. So, for example, if I was to go ahead and, since this is an organization, it's saying you have a new contact. I could then go ahead and I can put in a last name. I can put in a first name. Okay, I could put in a middle initial. I could put a prefix, suffix. Again, these are all, there are tables that are populated here, but you can go ahead and add whatever types of prefixes and suffixes you need. We've got a space here for titles. And then we also have different ways that we can record contacts. So for example, we've got a lot of different ways here. We've got partner, spouse, we've got contact third, second, fourth. Well, maybe what we want to do is we want to have something called a marketing contact. It's so easy to modify these tables. I can actually go ahead and just say I want to add a new contact type, and I'm just going to call it marketing. Okay, it's going to ask me for an abbreviation. I can then go ahead and just say save, and it's been added to my list. So I can go ahead and close, and I could pick marketing contact or any one of the other ones here. All right. Notice also I can include another name in my browse and quick gift name search. So what that means is when I'm on that browse card, I have the ability to not only look up by the main contact, I can actually set it up so I can look up under any one of these different names, and it will bring me back to the advanced electronics card. So what this does for me is it goes ahead and gives me a lot of flexibility in terms of keeping track of the correct people within the system itself. All right. Just a couple of other quick things I want to point out. If you may have noticed, there's a little star on this particular card. The star is there because that helps to identify them as someone who does have a giving history. If they don't have a giving history, they're going to have a little potted plant right here. And you can see that this is 0. The idea is that they need to be nurtured. They're a seedling. They haven't yet, grown into a full-fledged donor, I guess. So you've got that type of an indication. The other thing that you have the ability to do on these cards as well is mark them in different ways. For example, there are a number of items here called caddy items. Caddy items can allow you to go ahead and mark donors as anonymous. They can also go ahead and allow you to mark people as deceased. Do not solicit. What it allows you to do is to honor the wishes of the constituents so that you don't approach them in a way that they have preferred not to. What happens is when you mark these folks with these different caddy items or stamps as they're called, they can be excluded from your searches or from your list automatically. So it really, eliminates the amount of information you need to keep in your head and allows you to keep it in a much more organized fashion. Notice too that we've got lost stamped here, mailing list, no email, no mail. So there's a number of different things that you can do. The other thing that you have the ability to do is there's a paperclip function here. So if what you wanted to do is to actually go ahead and include an attachment to this basic card, or really to any card within the file, you have a hyperlink back to that record. So what I could go ahead and do then is just go ahead and say open. I'm not quite sure what this is going to be, but it's just an Excel file here. But it could also be a PDF file. It could be a photograph of someone. There's a number of different things that you could include within someone's record here. Another thing that you can do with these caddy items, notice that I've got some things here called dots. All right, these dots actually can also be given a particular legend so that they mean something. For example, I've got one here called last year, but unfortunately not this, 07 versus 08. So what happens is I've got a blue dot. So if I've got a blue dot on here, I can actually right-click and it tells me exactly what that blue dot means. And it's very easy to update that list so you can identify what those dots mean. It's also very easy to remove these caddy items if you need to. I could go ahead and I could take away that green dot. So now I've only got the more meaningful blue dot. The other thing I'll mention too is through the query function, you can actually add these caddy items as well on a global basis. So it's not like you need to add it to each individual card. There's many things that you can do on a global basis. One other thing that I also want to point out that you have the ability to do is to add sticky notes. So this is a great way to add a visual to say maybe what you want to do is you want to make sure that you invite to open house. Okay, so what that's going to do is it's going to have a little sticky note right there on his card to say, don't forget to invite him to the open house next time you make a phone call. So again, it's a great way to have a visual. You can do all kinds of pretty things with these too. You can change the size of them. You can actually go ahead and change the color, all kinds of cool things here. Right. So I do want to now kind of spend a few minutes just talking about some of the report writing capabilities or the report features in the system. Real quickly, I'm just going to take a jump over here to the query page. When we were looking at this particular basic card, we pulled up everybody in the class in 1974. Well, let's say we didn't want to just look at 74. We want to go back to the 70s. I'm just going to go ahead and now select the full button. What this allows you to do is do a query based off any one of these different cards and on a combination of information from these cards. So if I click on Basic, I'm seeing all these same fields, but what I have the ability to do now is to do different things than just setting my attribute, in this case, to just one particular option. I can set it equal to a list. I can do a range. So maybe what I want to go ahead and do is I want to say in the list of, and I want to go ahead and include the 70s. I can move these over in a number of different ways. I can double click. I can drag. Go ahead and drag 78, 79. All right. So now, again, I can do a count, and I can say, oh, I've got 166 constituents. The other thing that I could do is I want to say, hey, maybe I only want to go ahead and include everybody who is in these classes, but maybe I want to say that, let's say that they live in, let me go to the address card, because I want to say that their state is, let's say, not equal to, or I could say not in the list of, and that's going to give me more choices, Alabama, Alaska, let's take out Washington, Virginia, and the Virgin Islands. All right, so now if I count, I've got 162. So I had 4 folks that were in those states, all right, and in those classes. So what I have the ability to do now is I can go back to this browse list. Again, those same functions all apply, but I can do it from a number of different ways. So again, I was doing this based off of grouping. Maybe I also want to do it based off of the information. Maybe I want to go ahead and I want to say, in addition to that, I also want to include everyone who has ever given more than, and look at all the options I've got here. Maybe I want to say a gift of more than $2,000. Notice that they're a second group. So what I actually am doing here is, oops, I didn't add them as a second group. I added, I narrowed my list. So now what's happening is these are only the folks that meet these criteria. They're alums from the 70s who gave more than $2,000. Let me go back to my query. Editing these queries is very easy. And the reason that I'm actually doing this is because this is the same methodology that the report writer uses. Notice I can now go ahead and I could add an additional group. So instead of narrowing this, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to say give everybody whose gift amount is greater than $2,000. And it's going to give me a larger number than 162, okay, because I'm adding the group. All right. So let's just take a quick jump over here to the reports. And the system ships with about 100 different standard reports. They're all grouped by the different types of functions that you might need to look up in the system. There's constituent reports. So the constituent reports are going to give you information that's non-financial about your constituents. So if you want to get names and addresses, you want to do mailing labels. There's also a custom constituent report, which is extremely flexible and allows you to really decide what columns you want to have included. Financial reports is the next general category. And again, this is probably the one that gets used most frequently because it's the one that from which you can create a merge file to be able to create your acknowledgement letters. Real quickly, I do want to point out is notice that there's a section here called Standard Reports, and above it are Saved Reports. What happens is you create your own report library of saved reports by pulling up some of these standard reports and creating those queries just the way you might want to have them. So for example, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to select the donor list report. I'm going to right-click. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and highlight the report, and I'm going to say Setup. And notice that I have a number of tabs here, which is going to guide me through what I can change in the report. When I click on the button down there that said Change Query, it brings me back to that exact same query screen that you use to look up various information. So the same thing that you do to query on your constituents from just the basic lookup screen is the same methodology you use within the report writer. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to edit this gift date, and I'm going to say gift date is actually greater than or equal to. And notice that I've got a number of selections that have been predefined for me. I can also right-click and bring up a calendar that's going to allow me to scroll back by year, by month, whatever I need to do here. So now I can go ahead and I set this information to bring up all gifts since 2008. Notice I can decide how I would want to group this information. So if I wanted to go ahead and group this, perhaps by city or by name, I can change my sort. Right now, this is set up to sort by last name. Then I've got some options. These are all, I can actually change the financial information I want to have included in here. Let me just go quickly and run this to the screen for you. All right, and you can see what we have here is we have defined this as a report bringing up all gifts since 2008. It's further subdivided this so we can see the cash total for this year, for last year, and for 2 years ago. Right? And again, it would be very easy to modify this report based on the query. So say, oh, you know what, I actually want to change this query because I only want to see individuals. I could go over here to the basic card and I can say constituent type, and I could say is equal to individual. So now when I go ahead and I run the report, it now is only showing me the individuals. If you remember, we had advanced electronics in here, which was really increasing the dollar amount that we had here. Notice that I've got totals right down here. I can also go ahead and I can send this report right over to Excel if I wanted to go ahead and do so. I could send this off as a PDF as well, or email this report. So if I had a board member who wanted to ask me or had asked me for that information, I could go ahead and just send that over to them in that format. All right, but here I've opened it up in Excel. All righty. So that's a quick representation of a basic report. Let me just show you again. I'm going to click back over to the report. It prompts you to save changes. So again, this is how easy it is to create your own personalized report library. All I would need to do is say yes here, and it would actually prompt me for the name of the report that I wanted to save it as. Down here, I've got gift acknowledgments. Okay, and in the description, I don't know if you caught that. Whoops. Let me just go back to reports real quick. It even says, create a data file of gifts designed for use with a word processing system. Notice too that underneath our help function, there's actually a list of reports. So this is really great because it's something that you could print out as you're going through and learning the system to say, hey, what report do I want to run right now? What am I looking for? So there's some help again from right within the system. I'll mention again that there are those monthly reports, and one of which is a report writing class, or the mail merge class. And those are classes you can take online, taught by a real live teacher, where you get to ask questions, and they're held monthly. So, if you want to have multiple people at your organization take the class, you can, or you need to, you took the class 3 months ago, but now you've got new questions. You can go ahead and you can do that without any additional cost to you. It's all part of your monthly fee or part of your maintenance and support. All right, let me go quickly back here to the setup for the gift acknowledgments. Again, we've got a query here, so it's set up to default to just the gifts that you've added for today. But you could go ahead, and if you needed to do acknowledgments for the last month or for the last week, you could go ahead and do that. You can change the way this is sorted. You can also go ahead and just run the report. And when you run the report, notice that what we could do is, all the same functions, send it to Excel, but you could also do a merge. All right. When we go ahead and we say that we want to create a merge file, the best thing that you can do here is to already have your template set up in Word, with your original fields, and then you can go ahead and just automatically create those acknowledgement letters. Before we go ahead and take a look at that, I do just want to make mention of, notice also, here's a way to go ahead and automatically mark your gifts as acknowledged. So what will happen is there will be a stamp placed on that gift, so you have knowledge and you have confirmation that, oh yeah, I did acknowledge that gift. So if you do this before you go on vacation, you come back and say, oh man, which gifts did I send the thank yous for, which ones didn't? This will help you. You could also even add a contact card in addition to marking those gifts as acknowledged if you wanted to have it in a second place in the system. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to say create a new merge document. It is, if I was doing this for the first time, this is what I would need to do. I can go ahead and I can give it a name. Hold on here. All right, so it's automatically opening up Word for me. I can go ahead and click on mailings. I could go ahead and insert a address block, but notice that it's already matched up and set up for me. I'll go ahead and I'll say okay. Then I could go ahead and my letter might say something like dear, and again I'm going to go here to mailings, and I could say insert merge field, and these are the fields that I've got included in this list. I could go ahead and I could maybe use preferred name. I'm just going to say insert, and again you do this once for your letters and it's going to remember it for you. Okay, I'm just going to say thank you for, and here we go. I've got my mailings, insert merge field, and I should have something here that's called gift amount. All right, and maybe I'm going to say for and insert merge field, and maybe what I'm going to say here is going to be the purpose. There we go. I am having a hard time seeing today, guys. I apologize. All right, so I've got that inserted, so I'm just going to say, and I'm just going to say thank you again. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on review. Just click on view. There we go. Results. There we go. So we've got one there for Christopher Jones, Ryan. Okay, and notice that it's got all of this information in here. So I could then go ahead and start my mail merge. I could create my envelopes. I could do everything that I normally would do from Word. So it does it for me all automatically. I'm going to go ahead and say save. And let me go ahead and just call this and save. Okay, so I've saved this. I'd probably print those off. It's that easy to do those gift acknowledgments. Do just want to mention there's also a whole series of reports here for analytical purposes. So if you're trying to figure out, okay, donor trends, who's given to us when, what have they given to us for, that's included. As is, there's volunteer management within the system as well. So if you want to use this to track volunteers for your organizations on a high level, you can do so. And then our events. We didn't even get a chance to really touch on events today. But again, there are a series of reports that you can have included in here. That's going to help you, run your guest list, all that type of information. There's going to be membership reporting that's included in here. So if you're tracking memberships, grant tracking. This is also going to help you manage your proposal process, right? And there's also some additional reports which can help you track those things like your relationships, that tickler list. So you've got a to-do list you could actually turn off from the system if you didn't want to just put it online. And then there's also some receipting functions which can go ahead and help you provide receipts at the end of the year for your donors as well. All right. Let me just go ahead and click right back over here to constituents. Any particular questions on anything that I've gone over today? I know we've spent just about an hour and 10 minutes here. We'd hope to kind of keep it right around to an hour. Again, this has been pretty high level, but hopefully this was gave you an idea and a little bit of a flavor for what the Fundraising 50 system can do. Any questions at this point? Okay. If you do have questions, my name is Jane Houle with First Choice Advisors. You can go to our First Choice Advisors website at firstchoiceadvisors.com. I can also be reached via email at jhoule@firstchoiceadvisors.com as well. Thank you very much.